Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. As promised, I'm going to give you guys a garage update on what we've been running in our garage and how we've been getting solar panels and solar power and battery backup and all that good stuff in our garage. Currently, we are using this reliable electric pure sine wave inverter. It's been great for us. Have had zero issues with it. We are currently running, as you can see, a 24 volt system. And again, it's worked amazing for us. You can see there, 24 volts. It's run amazing for us. We really like it. The fan is a little loud, but I feel like most inverters have a pretty loud fan when you're looking at this price range. But it's been doing really well. If I had to do it all again, I probably would have gotten either a 12 volt system or a 48 volt system. As you start off, you just want to do something that's affordable, and I feel like a 24 volt system was safe, and then we could draw the power that we needed from it. But I probably could have done what I needed out here with the 12 volt system, and then use those 12 volt batteries as an upgrade for something larger in the future. Currently, with this 24 volt inverter, it is pretty much set to use just on this box that I built for our batteries, and that's really all I can use it for. With the 12 volt batteries, I can run other things off of it, some other cheaper inverters that I have, or lower wattage inverters, I should say. But with the 24 volt system, I'm kind of stuck with this, but it's worked for the garage. I do want to do an upgrade in the very near future to see if we can use something else, but that's a project that I'll report on you guys later. But like I said, we've had zero issues with this guy. I like that it's basic. It just has an on-off switch, and it shows your battery voltage and your AC voltage output. So it's pretty basic, which is great. I don't need anything super fancy, and it's, like I said, it's worked really well for us. As far as our charge controller, we're using this Bouge RV charge controller. I did have a Renogy 40 amp MPPT charge controller out here, the 12 to 24 volt model. But we upgraded to this Prime Days, I guess, because we got a deal on Prime Days. They had it on sale. I'd seen a couple of reviews on it, and I really like this better than the Renogy one. The app is way better than the Renogy one. I feel like the app on the Renogy one is very picky. It's really hard to get the solar input to show up on it sometimes. Sometimes it's like 30 seconds before you can see the solar input. And on this one, everything pops up right away. You connect it with Bluetooth. It pops up on your phone. You can see automatically what solar you're bringing in, which for me was a big deal, like watching like clouds come over just to see what kind of cloud cover we're getting as far as solar output was concerned. And sometimes the clouds would be gone before I could get the Renogy solar one to pop up. The battery would pop up right away, but the solar one would just take a minute, even if I'm sitting right next to the little Bluetooth module. But this one has been great. I really love it. It's a fairly heavy duty unit here. It has this little magnetic cover here, which is nice. It covers the terminals for your connections. Does great. And like I said, we got it on a Amazon Prime Days deal, and it's worked really well for us. It is obviously an MPPT one. What I did like about this one over the Renogy was it could handle 150 volts of current coming in, whereas the Renogy one was just 100. So before, whenever I had my panels on top of the garage, which it wasn't really working very well, I had to do I think it was a 4S 3P, whereas now I've got a 2S 5S 2P right now. So I've got 5 solar panels in series times 2, and then they're running parallel together to come in here, which is only 10 amps running through this 10 gauge cable right here. So I really like the fact that I could do that. I feel like we never have any solar issues, especially with where it is on the roof now, because it's on the roof of the house. I showed you guys the solar panels up there, and we get sun on that guy literally from like 9 o'clock in the morning all the way till 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. So it's a good position for that. No trees, no shades currently. So we really like that. The solar panels obviously coming through these wires right here. These are 10 gauge wires. They're actually well water wires. They're really stout, have a big sheath on them, so I really like that. Coming into this Chitaxi breaker. It's a 1,000 volt DC breaker. I've got the 63 amp version. I probably wouldn't have gotten the 63 amp. I feel like that's a little overkill for what I have in the garage, because I really only have 10 amps coming through. And then obviously the Bouge RV is a 40 amp charge controller. So I probably should have gotten like the lower version charge controller, maybe like, I think there's a 32 amp one, or breaker, the 32 amp breaker as opposed to the 63 one. But it's worked good. Whenever I have to work on stuff in here, I can pop it off if I need to. I've never had any issues with it, never no smells or anything coming from it. So it's worked fine for what I need. It's just enclosed in this little box. So it's worked fine. But again, I probably would have gotten the smaller amp breaker as opposed to this really big one. But this one I may use on my current project. You'll just have to stay tuned for that. Going from there, the batteries go down and up to the charge controller, and they're labeled positive, negative. I just use these 10 gauge, I think they're Southwire wires, and they're fine for that. Then from there, they go down to these terminal blocks. And don't make fun of my terminal blocks. I got these before I really knew what I was supposed to be doing. So the terminal blocks, I believe they're audio terminal blocks for cars, but they actually work really good. It's a big, huge chunk of metal, and they can hold up to, I think, a 2-watt battery cable on the bottom, and then I believe up to a 1-aught on the top. And like I said, they work good. I've checked them a couple of times whenever I'm running the AC off the inverter, and they are not hot at all. They stay cool. They're cooler than the inverter is. So I haven't had any issues with them. I know it's not what you're supposed to use, but yeah, I have had zero issues with these guys at all. So I know they're not what you're supposed to use, and like I said, I am going to upgrade to something that's a little more solar acceptable in the future, but that's coming up, as well as adding some more fuses to it. I've got a fuse in the battery, but I don't have anything connected to this guy, so I need to get a fuse connected to this guy. But they've worked great. And then obviously from there, they go into the inverter that we talked about. Also connected to these guys are our batteries. So currently I have 2 sets of batteries in place. We have these Power Queen 12.8 volt 200 amp hour plus batteries. So they have the I believe it's the 200 amp BMS in them, in each one. So they're obviously in series to make a 24 volt system, which is what we're using, and they've worked great. I have, before I put them in line with this system, I did use them out in our power shed, no, not our power shed, our well water shed, over the winter, because we had that deep freeze that came over, and I actually hooked up a little 250 watt heater out there and ran them off a small inverter, and it did great. It ran all night long, and then I had a little solar panel hooked up on the roof, so during the day it charged it up and it would discharge, and they ran for days on that with no issues. I had a little thermometer out there, or a thermostat, so once it got below 40, it would kick on inside the little pump house, and then when it got above 40 inside the pump house, it would turn off. So they lasted a long time with just these 200 amp hour batteries. I was pretty impressed. So we have this one, and then we also have this battery box that I built. This is I believe it's a rigid toolbox. It's got this handle on it. It's got some wheels on it, so you can tote it around if you'd like to. Let me get you a little bit wide version here. And it's worked great for our battery box. It's enclosed. Technically it's waterproof, but obviously it's got some holes in it so that we could do what we needed to do for that. But it's worked great. It's got 280 amp hour cells in it. I had bought I think 4 cells at a time, and it literally took like 8 months to get everything in, because I bought 2 cells, got them in, and as soon as I realized how long it took to get those in, I bought 4 cells, bought 4 more cells and got those in, and it took forever to get this guy built up. Unfortunately, when the first 4 cells came in, I was playing with it, and I did strip the terminals out of one of them, but I did fix it. It was just me, being excited about having cells and messing with them, and you know, hooking up a little cheap dolly 12 volt, yeah, 12 volt BMS to it, and messing around with it, charging it with the solar panel I had. So just some excitement for getting the battery cells in and being able to use them. But once I got the 8 total in, I got them put in this box, and currently it's got a little monitoring device here. I never use it, so I would probably never put another one of these little guys here. I just don't feel the need for it if I've got Bluetooth BMS in it. It does have an overkill solar BMS in it, and it works great. It's the 100 amp BMS, I believe. So it works fine with the 24 volts at 100 amps. It actually will run my compressor. It's one of those small, I don't want to show it to you because there's a lot of pew stuff around it, but it runs great with that compressor. I don't have any issues of it bogging down. It will not run the AC and the compressor at the same time though, so it will trip in that case. So if I have to run the compressor, I'll pop the little AC off, and we just have a little LG, I think it's a 8000 BTU air conditioner. So and it runs great, but that's really the only thing that this little guy can't do. I do have it hardwired in with this little terminal section right here. I have the plastic cover over it, but I also taped around it because we do have kids, and if they were ever out here, I didn't want the little cover to come off for any reason. I heat shrink the crap out of it all the way up to where the little connectors are. We do little fork connectors or whatever those things are called, so that it keeps it safe. The other thing is, I've looked at a few other videos recently in the last few months, and didn't realize like these plug connectors, they have a smaller gauge cable running to these. I think they're 14 gauge cables. I could be mistaken, so don't quote me on that, but they are smaller than the cables that are running to this little terminal block. So I'm glad that I ran this little extension piece to that terminal block, and so whenever I do plug in my AC whenever fall comes around, I'll plug the AC back in there, and it's mostly to keep the humidity out of the garage. It is insulated around the walls, it's just not insulated on the top, and so I just want to keep the humidity out. Like I said, I've got some pew-pews, I've got some bicycles in here, a lot of equipment that I don't want to have it super humid in here, so that kind of just keeps it a little cool and keeps the humidity down. But I run that off this just for like the surging capability of it. I don't want to run it off the smaller wires because of that. I don't want to have any issues with it or overheating or melting anything. So when I do run it off of this guy, it runs great. I have no issues with it. There's no smell, there's no heat. I get my little thermal gun out and check everything. So it runs good with that, no issues. As far as these are concerned, this is just a TV that's hooked up to this one. This guy right here, I'm looking at a battery switch there. So I got the TV hooked up to this guy, and then this guy is literally just charging some Ryobi batteries, and my Wi-Fi extender is hooked up to that. And from that, it's really not going to really draw that much anyway. Even charging the batteries, there's only 2 battery chargers in there, and they're not the high end battery chargers, so it's really not pulling too many amps through there. So it's great for that. The other one, I do have like some higher stuff going through there, so I have the plug in this one. It's got the higher battery charger because I have an Ego battery charger, and so that's on this one, and because it does pull more amps. I got a little smart plug there, so I can watch if whenever I hook up the pressure washer to it. I have an electric pressure washer, and so I just kind of wanted to look and see how many watts and everything. So all my experimental stuff I'll hook through that, and this thing will run the AC and the pressure washer at the same time for sure. I guess because it's more of a continual draw as opposed to like a surge then a release and a surge and a release like the compressor does, and it runs great, so I don't have any issues with that. Right now I have the little fan hooked up. I've hooked a fan up just to cool this off because this fan comes on constantly and it's pretty loud. But if I hook this little fan up to it and just blow it on it, the fan really rarely, even on the hottest days, it rarely comes on. And it's been 110 degrees outside, the tops that I've seen, maybe 111 actually. Lately it's kind of cooled off a little bit. It's only in the upper 90s, which actually feels really good. I know you guys think that's probably funny, but it actually feels really good to be in the upper 90s. From there, my monitoring system, don't laugh, it's a little Easy Viz camera, so it points towards this guy right here, and I usually have a tablet sitting up here that's connected to the BMS. I'm working on some other stuff right now, so it's not there. So it does connect to this to the Bluetooth that's in the battery case there. It's not completely accurate because the difference in maybe voltage between the two. Sometimes I've got some I guess some amperage going from one battery to another, because it's showing that every now and then it's drawing amperage and I'm not really using anything. So I kind of wonder if it's going from this battery to this battery, or maybe from this battery to this battery at some time. It would be nice to get one of those Victron smart shunts so I could do like a midpoint thing to see what the voltages are at. But currently, you know, I don't really need that in the garage right now. And like I said, I am trying to do some upgrades to where maybe I can run the garage off something that's not in here, and then take these cells and put them in a 48 volt system, and possibly upgrade these to 2 more batteries to use 48 volts, or just use them as a 12 volt in something else that's more like a standalone type project. All right, guys, I'm going to try to, I did already unlatch it. I have limited space with this cable. I tried to keep my cables as short as possible. You know, it's not always the case, but I tried to keep them as short as possible. But I am going to try to give you a view inside the battery box here. Hopefully I don't shut off my recording. I did unlatch it earlier, and just so you guys can see, watch my wires and everything. I don't know if you guys can see that in there very well or not, but I don't have anything over the top just because it's an enclosed system. It's usually latched. Nobody can get into it. I have it unlatched right now just for y'all to see, but I've got my BMS down here. It's the Overkill Solar BMS. I've got a shunt down there, and that's what's going to that little battery monitoring system that's in the front, that again I would not do again if I was to rebuild this. But that's it. It just has some foam keeping everything in place. This never moves, so I don't have to worry about like the cells like shifting on me or moving. Once I do decide to do a little upgrade on it, I'll actually pull the cells completely out, move it to a different area, and you know, they're not going to shift or do anything in here. So they're not in a car, they're not in a van, they're not in an RV. They sit here in my garage. They don't move. We don't have earthquakes, so so I don't really worry too much about it. I did do a combo of cables and bars on there, like the little terminal bars, but it works fine. I know it's not perfect. I've learned a whole lot since a few years ago, as far as like battery building and solar and all the things I should and should not be doing. So so don't make too much fun of it. Like I said, I am really pretty new at all this. So that's the inside. Currently, this is our grid power that we have coming in. I literally have nothing but this is a light. So I have a automatic light that comes on whenever I walk in the garage, just so it doesn't draw too much power. And the reason for that is if for some reason the battery does go dead or something happens, I can still come in and the light come on. So literally this runs that, and that's it. So there's really not much of it. It's just an LED. Let me see if I can get it to you without showing anything. So this one literally just goes to that light right there. And so whenever I walk in, that one kicks on because it's a motion detector. And whenever I walk out, it turns off, or once there's no motion, it turns off. So that's what that's plugged into. And then also our air conditioner. The air conditioner, again, in the summer, I have to plug it in here because it drains the battery from this guy so fast, because it will constantly run. Even if it's set at like 75 or 78 degrees, when I'm in here, it'll constantly run. I have a little smart plug here, and what I do with this guy is, before I would hook up a little 24 volt battery charger, and then with that little camera I could monitor the battery voltage, and if it was getting low overnight, I would just remotely turn this on and then charge it at like, I think it was like 5 amps or something like that. Nothing too high, just 5 amp, charge the battery, and it was kind of like a trickle charge for the system, and it worked really well. But that's what I use this for. But you can see I haven't used it in a while. This summer it's been so sunny, I have had zero issues with the battery. The lowest I have seen this guy go, right now it's at 26.1 volts, and it's 5 o'clock in the morning. The lowest I've seen this go this summer is like 25.2 or something like that. And that was with me running everything all day long, out here, in and out all day long, running stuff. And that's as low as it got. As soon as I walked out, within, I want to say 30 minutes to an hour, it was charged back up to 26 volts. So I haven't had a need to charge that or use any grid to keep this guy charged, which has been really nice. So that's our garage solar system. Once I relocated our solar panels to the roof of the house and ran the line to the garage, yeah, I've had zero issues out here. It's been great. I run everything off solar except for the AC right now. And like I said, that one light, and we have had no power coming through here. Now the only thing that's on our garage circuit is a small AC that is, besides our AC out here, is a small AC that's inside of a shed. And that's usually set at like 90 degrees just to get some of the heat and humidity out of that, because there's just storage stuff in there, you know, Christmas stuff, Halloween stuff. And so that's really the only thing on our garage circuit that's running just like our garage here. But in the fall, I run nothing but the light off this guy. It's all coming from solar. It's all coming from this battery bank, especially once I got those guys hooked into it. It's all coming from here. Now, obviously it's cooler in the fall, so the AC doesn't run as much. We also have less sun, but it does great for us, so I have no complaints. So I hope you guys like the update on the garage. I do have some other projects that I'm working on. I want to show you our little pool pump setup that we have, so you can see how we did that. It's ran awesome. I love that. Just a 12-volt battery for that guy. Again, another reliable electric pure sine wave inverter. Super cheap, 80 bucks. For that guy, and it has run our pool pump all summer long. Once I put another couple of solar panels on it, have had no issues. Run it about 8-9 hours a day, no issues. Just run it whenever it's sunny. So I'll get you an update on that next, and then on to some other projects after that. But thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I hope you guys are enjoying the videos, and I'll see you again soon. Be safe. Bye-bye.